No one really wants to end up here in a homeless encampment, living in a tent, all of their belongings in a shopping cart, but it's happening to more Americans ending up on the streets. I'm Angela Brown from the National News Desk, and welcome to our special Sinclair Cares From Homeless to Hope in cooperation with the Salvation Army. And we're going to show you the emerging face of homelessness in America. Sometimes it's obvious, like what you're seeing around me. Other times it's invisible. Maybe your neighbor living paycheck to paycheck, one bad break away from losing their home because of divorce, losing their job, maybe even a health issue, all asking one tough question: where will I live? Joining me now is Colonel James Betts, the National Chief Secretary for the Salvation Army. You know, Colonel, usually I end with this question, but I've decided to start with it. What do you want people to learn to get from this segment?
I would hope that they would see people that are struggling with homelessness as people with a name, people with a family in some cases, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, and connect with them in those ways. If you want to make a difference in the life of someone, walking up and saying, hey, what's your name? Is there anything I can help you with? Is a great place to start.
And your organization, the Salvation Army, obviously doing so much to help people. And the numbers here are staggering when it comes to the increase of people experiencing homelessness. I believe you said 18%.
Yeah, year over year, when we looked at the statistics through HUD sources, we saw an 18.1% increase in homelessness from 2023 to 2024. And that's on the heels of a 12% increase year over year the year prior. That's incredible. And to take those percentages and put some numbers around that, you're talking about in 1 month last year, 770,000 people in America.
That's unbelievable.
As measured as being homeless at this point. So it's just incredible. And people wonder about what does that look like? Families, homelessness among families rose 40% year over year. That's unheard of, and it's overwhelming. But we want to make a difference. We want to see what we can do to not only temper a present crisis someone might be, but truly transform their future as well.
How are you making a difference, especially at this time when you say the numbers are surging 18%? Do you add new programs? What do you do in order to address this growing population of homelessness?
Well, we definitely take a minute to take stock of the programs that we're already doing and make sure they're as effective as they can be. Make sure that we're looking at the actual outcomes of those programs and are they accomplishing what we want them to accomplish. We also partner. So we look for other organizations and other people and citizens who want to make a difference, who find their hearts broken by this along with ours and say, hey, let's work together on this. I think we can get a lot further than we could do alone. And when you look at the Salvation Army's approach to serving folks in homelessness, it's something where we think about it not only at the obvious, hey, let's get shelter over somebody's head, but there's a full continuum, there's a full spectrum of ways that we help. Sheltering, huge. We do that every single day. Thousands of people are in Salvation Army shelters. Transitional housing. But we also work to prevent evictions. So if there's something I can do today to keep you from losing your home, we want to do that. Last year, over 500,000 people eviction was prevented because of the intervention of the Salvation Army to the tune of over $300 million.
You know, that's a very important point because people forget that you're on both sides here. You're the emergency services on the ground as well, right, where you're going out in the streets. Tell me more about that.
We do go out on the streets, and a lot of times people say, you know, well, maybe you shouldn't feed people on the streets. It makes it too easy to be homeless. That just shocks me.
Yeah,
nobody wants to be homeless, but you sometimes hear that. You're empowering people to live like this. That's not it at all. For us, we're not talking about serving the homeless like I'm above them and they're below me, but rather, how can I come alongside and break bread with a brother or a sister who's hurting? And through that, we build trust. We can begin to restore hope, which is critical among folks who are in these types of crises. And then from there, we can move to the next step about, are you willing to go into a shelter, or are you willing to work with us to find another way?
It just seems like you would have some difficulties keeping up, having enough food, having enough cots, whatever it may be. How do you stay ahead of this? And do you need help in those departments?
We definitely need help in those departments. We are constantly looking. Now, we don't want to just build bigger and bigger shelters. We want to prevent homelessness. We want to work with the children in our programs and teach financial literacy. We want to help them learn how to hold jobs when they become adults. Those are things that we can do to prevent homelessness. But in the midst of the crisis that we're in right now, absolutely, we need folks to do food drives. We need folks to give donations, to go to SalvationArmyUSA.org and see if they can contribute, because cash gives us flexibility. As the Salvation Army is trying to take a comprehensive approach to this, we want to make sure that we have the flexibility and the nimbleness to address issues as they're presented to us.
Now, you mentioned the word programs just a few seconds ago. Can you give me some specific programs through the Salvation Army helping people in need?
Absolutely. There's again, varying degrees of how much we're engaging for different families in different situations. We have a program called Pathway of Hope, which is an incredible program across the country, which seeks to not just address symptoms of situations and of problems and of challenges and of crisis, but rather, can we get under the surface? Can we get under the hood and say, what are some of the root causes? What has put you in this position? And is there something we can do about that? So with Pathway of Hope, we would have one-on-one intense case management where we would work with folks sometimes up to a year to say, let's talk through, is it a problem holding a job? Is it a situation where childcare, what are the root causes? Is it about financial management? Is that something we can help educate folks on? How can you take the food that you have and prepare nutritious meals for your children, even on a limited budget? So that's a way that we begin to try to break the cycle of intergenerational poverty and not just deal with things in a reactionary, but we try to be proactive in that. We also have housing that's very specific. We have veterans housing. We have housing for seniors. We have housing for families with minor children. We do a variety of approaches. Again, those are when someone's already, in some cases, homeless or on the verge of homeless. But then we work on the other end of the spectrum. We have children's programs that are enormous. One of them, the largest provider of music education in the world. Well, how can that translate in this way? Well, I'm teaching a child to stand up and speak with confidence. I'm teaching them how to interact with peers. That's going to translate to school. That's going to translate to the professional world, and hopefully to a place where that child doesn't find themselves in the same crisis.
And you talk about kids. I think there's one stat for 18 and under, something like 150,000.
In one day, they counted kind of a point in time count of children, HUD did, children that were experiencing homelessness, and there were 150,000 children counted in that one day in 2024.
And these are kids who go to school, they maybe go to a shelter, they're couch surfing. They don't have a permanent home?
Well, exactly. And that is a situation that kind of talks about all the other implications of a family that's struggling with housing issues, and that's health issues. A child's not going to a primary care physician on a regular basis, or they're having dental hygiene issues, which are causing other infections and other challenges health-wise. It's a situation where a child is changing schools or missing school or not able to keep up with homework, or in a case where maybe they're living in a car, where do I shower? Where do I take a bath so that when I go to school, I'm not further ostracized for things that I don't have any control over? You and I know when we're in a position of stability and we move, our children are impacted by that in incredible ways. But when that change is really out of the control of the family and happens over and over and over, it's devastating.
Well, what are some of the obstacles you're facing when you're trying to help some of these families or single adults, whoever it may be?
Definitely issues of trust, particularly if we're looking at single individuals, maybe that you would see as what you would come to mind when you think of homeless folks, a gentleman on the street corner, maybe a veteran or somebody who's struggling. A lot of times that comes down to trust. And so we might come offer a cup of cold water or a meal to say, hey, can we just have a conversation, build the trust, then they'll allow us to help. In some cases, it's a lack of hope, where they've lost hope. They don't feel like there's any way out of this thing. And you see that a lot of times with families where mom and dad, if they're both there, sometimes it's just mom trying to hold this thing together. And she's like, I'm at my wit's end. I'm losing hope. And so the Salvation Army really focuses on that and says, how can we begin to speak into your life and show you other people who've made it and ways there's a path forward that we can help you journey. We'll walk with you and begin to restore that hope and begin to transform that future.
Well, let me ask you directly, how can other people watching this, may be able to help you remove some of those barriers?
I would say start by seeing where we started this interview, right? See them as people. Recognize that homelessness is not just the gentleman on the corner. It's the family sleeping on the couch of a relative. It's people sleeping in a car. It can take many different forms. Sometimes they may have a roof over their head, but it's not their roof. And so have compassion. Ask God to show you what you can do. Financial assistance is always welcome. SalvationArmyUSA.org, as I mentioned before. Volunteering. Come alongside us. When we're working with youth programs and we want to teach financial literacy, if that's your wheelhouse, come alongside us and help us teach that. Come alongside maybe a young married couple that's struggling and say, let us show you how we did it, and begin to help each other, as opposed to just saying, okay, Salvation Army, you go solve all of these problems.
You know what's interesting, because we have this list of, $25 will help provide one night of shelter for a child. You have like $100 helps provide that financial literacy and employment assistance. You do so much. So that money, people may think it's only going for food or a one night stay, but it's sprinkled out through so many different parts of your organization to help people not only for one time, but could help them get themselves back on their feet before they even lose their home.
We start at the Salvation Army by meeting people where they are. What their needs are at that point that we meet them are a wide variety of things, some of which we can answer with let us help pay your rent, but some of them are more long-term. And so the Salvation Army, oftentimes people forget that not only are we there at a point of crisis, but we work very hard to transform the future. And so it's this wide variety of approaches that we can take, and the financial support that we receive from the generous public enables us to maintain that nimbleness, if you will, in our response at meeting people where they are.
Well, where do you stand right now in that department when it comes to financially meeting people where they are?
That is always a challenge. The need is always greater than the resources that we have. We've just come through a difficult Christmas. Christmas is our largest fundraising time of the year. We were a little under where we had been in previous years, and so that amplifies the challenge for us. In addition to the fact that the number of folks needing our help is growing every day, so anything people can do to come alongside us.
And final question: give me an example of how you've changed someone's life. In terms of, I know you have so many.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'll try to keep a really short one. Mm-hmm. We had a soup kitchen in one of our Salvation Army locations. This was one I was serving at, and a mom came in with her two sons, and they were not in a stable housing situation, and so they were eating lunch. And one of our music teachers happened to be in the room, and she saw the two teenage boys, and went up and said, "Hey, would you like to come to our music programs this week?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And so she invited them in. They started singing in the kids' choir. They started learning a brass instrument. And within a year and a half, this 15-year-old young man was the guest speaker for our annual dinner to talk about how their lives had been changed. Today, when I look at that young man, he and his brother are now the owners of a professional sports team. That's life transformation from a soup kitchen to ownership of a sports franchise. Phenomenal, just an incredible transformation.
Well, thank you so much for all the work that you do at Salvation Army. Colonel Betts, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
America is often broken down into red and blue states, but one thing we have in common across all 50 states, homelessness and the fact that housing insecurity is on the rise. The numbers here are simply staggering. An 18% surge in people experiencing homelessness. And then when you look at families, a 40% rise from 2023 to 2024. And then think of our youngest generation, kids 18 and under, 150,000 experiencing homelessness. That's an increase of 33% from the previous year. So what do these numbers tell us? It could be a high school kid going to a shelter after school, a mom working every day, paycheck to paycheck, on the streets next year. But you can help by going to sinclaircares.com or scanning the QR code on your screen. These are real-life stories capturing how you and the Salvation Army are making a difference in people's lives. Listen to Megan Clark from WJLA in Washington, D.C.
You may know the Salvation Army for its famous bell ringers or a place to donate.
So we're in the space right now.
But in DC, the Salvation Army also runs the Turning Point program,
And your kitchen, washer, dryer in the kitchen.
a safe place where young moms can come and live for 2 years. It's even furnished. Selena Bland is case manager here. Tell us some of the challenges maybe you've seen that these moms face.
Childcare, education. So some of them don't have high school diplomas. Some of them need professional clothing. They've never had real jobs to where they needed to dress up and, get the whole black pants, white shirt, blazer kind of thing. Some of them don't necessarily have the support system. So they don't have, some of them lost their mothers young or, don't have certain family that, other people can count on.
The building has space for 26 young families. The moms pay a small fee based on what they make.
I think the most that any one mother might pay would be $100, $125.
Major Wilma Mason tells me during the day, the moms can work or go to school. At night, they can take classes to learn new work and life skills with help watching their kids.
Once they graduate and they're successful, they go back to a life. And that's what we want for these ladies as well.
After the moms leave, the Salvation Army will help again, matching money saved with services.
If you've saved $600, we're going to come in with $600 for maybe your first light bill or your first rental assistance or your security deposit. Nothing can make you feel better than really seeing, perhaps what we're really seeing is generational poverty being chipped away at.
For Selena, the Salvation Army really is doing the most good.
I have a client now who's like, she had no credit when she came in and she's like, Miss Bland, I'm at a 730 now. And it's just like, and so she's working on applying to apartments now. And it's just so special to see.
In Washington, D.C., Megan Clark, 7 News.
Joining us is Major Wilma Mason, National Capital Area Commander. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. We want to hear from you, from the Salvation Army, of course. Tell me, first of all, what you're doing right now to help the homeless population here in the Metro DC area.
Well, across the DMV, we have 9 different units. And what happens in those different units can vary, but the standardization that you'll see across the units is helping with food insecurity, and also helping to connect people to affordable housing, stepping in the gap for helping with rental assistance and utility assistance. Just being available when people call with a need.
Now, you say 9 different units, right?
We do.
And we're talking about what, units like this one right here?
No,
Oh,
these
no,
are
like buildings.
Yes, buildings. This is our only mobile unit
Yes.
in the district. But we also have a mobile unit that's hitting the ground up in Montgomery County as well. And so this is exciting. This one has been part of our community for many years. It's actually it was the very first one in the nation to be going out every night of the year to meet the need on the street in Washington, D.C.
And that's the thing, you guys are on the front line here.
We are.
And you're seeing the issues with the homeless population firsthand. What are you seeing in terms of a growing population, the people that you help using this unit right here?
The population is a growing population. And what I will tell you is through this vehicle, we see a lot of assistance with a hot meal because they're living on the street. It's called Grate Patrol because they connect their blankets over a grate to get the heat, and it blows their blankets up to create a tent. And that is why this is called Grate Patrol. We're moving around from grate to grate to feed people in the evenings. And so as part of this, we would also be there to meet their immediate need. So it might be an immediate need that you need warm socks for tonight, or you might need gloves or a hat or a coat. We travel with those kind of things, but we also have a social services manager on the unit every night, so that if somebody says, you know what, I would like to do this, but I don't have my ID and I can't get it, she will step in and work with them to secure their ID. So working with them on a continuous basis to move them out of living off the street, maybe into a shelter or into a program that can help them with the goals that self-sufficiency would be down the road.
You know, you get to meet people every day who are experiencing housing insecurity, who are homeless. What do you think that people don't know about the homeless population right now?
I think what we don't know, or maybe we don't quite catch the full picture of, is that it's not because somebody doesn't want a job. Many times what we're seeing is that we have people who, there was an emergency that came up in the family, maybe somebody in the family ended up having to need medical assistance and it drained their bank account, or something happened in their home that caused an emergency. And most of our families live paycheck to paycheck. And the minute they lose a job or an emergency happens in their family, they can't make those payments. And those build on each other and build, and then they find themselves in homelessness.
What are some of the biggest challenges, though, facing people who are either facing housing insecurity or who are homeless right now?
I think for us, the biggest challenges is always finding the right place to connect them, the networking out in the community, and of course the funds to keep a program such as this moving forward, because the need is always going to be there, and it's trying to meet the needs. And we're very thankful for those partners who have come alongside us, local churches who will take a night of the week and they will provide the food that we will serve off of this vehicle. But other nights, we put together the food that will be served up there, volunteering to come off to work on the vehicle. So that's some of the ways that people can help. But I will tell you, the need is great.
Now, you talk about the need, and it's hard to make a dent sometimes. The problem just seems so big. So how do you actually measure success in a situation like this?
You know, after so many years of being part of this ministry, you have to look at it individually, case by case, because there will be those who will move from homelessness into providing for themselves. My husband was ringing bells this year, out there volunteering, ringing a bell, and a lady was coming right for him, looked him in the eye and says, "I put this in today because last year I received a meal from your Great Patrol. I don't need that this year. I have a job and I have an apartment." But in that moment, when I had no place to go and no hot meal, the Salvation Army van came by and I was helped. So that's success.
And you talk about success. What are some of the tangible ways that you actually move people out of poverty?
By connecting them to resources that they truly need. So it might be securing their identification so that then they can go and apply for a driver's license. They can then go and apply for an apartment, making sure that they have those pieces. Sometimes it's connecting them to the right local resource. Maybe it's not us that can help move them to housing, but somebody else, connecting them to a right program.
You know, people always wonder, if I give money or if I give money specifically, how is it put to good use? Is it the food? How does this all work?
Every dime is accounted for in the Salvation Army, and I absolutely love that because what will happen with donations when they come into the Salvation Army, many times it's used to buy things that we might not have received through donations. So we will be providing socks and sometimes shoes and t-shirts and the food that we have to purchase to go on this vehicle. So keeping those kind of things available for our clientele. It's really exciting because our social worker, if she comes by and someone's a regular and they say, I really have holes in the bottom of my shoes and it's really cold. You know what she'll do? She'll figure out how to measure her foot. And then the next time she's out there, she'll look for that person and connect them with shoes. So it's providing what's needed at the moment.
Now, you're helping people in need. What is your most urgent needs right now?
I would say the most urgent need is a new vehicle. And that's just being honest truth. Whereas we always have the needs of being able to provide the food and the resources that are given off this truck, and volunteers that would help serve those who are finding themselves in homelessness. But right now, the truck is experiencing some difficulties that can't be addressed. And so we're moving in that direction to replace her. She's been on the street for many years. So she's done a good job for us.
I know you've given your service for close to 40 years or so.
Yes.
This means a lot to you personally.
It really does, because I will tell you, I've seen it work in many families. I've seen it work in extensions of my family to move them to a different point in their life, to break generational poverty. So I know it can be done.
Quickly, before we leave, does it take a lot to help?
No. Anybody can help. Probably one of the most exciting things for me to see as a Salvation Army officer in all these years is whenever even a Boy Scout group troop comes along and says, hey, we packed these snack bags as part of a service project. And then they're donated to us and we take them and we put them on the van and we hand them out as snacks. So it doesn't matter.
Even
age doesn't matter. Yeah.
Even a few dollars in some cases?
Oh, absolutely. It's quite exciting to see how donations come together to provide a whole. you know, different, this person brings this to the table, that person brings this. But when we put it all together, we can help meet a bigger need.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Major Wilma Mason. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
When we return, look at how one mom changed her life. Stay with From Homeless to Hope. Welcome back to Sinclair Cares, From Homeless to Hope. I'm Angela Brown. Just imagine your life unraveling. You're a mom, you have a child, and you end up homeless. Or you're going to hear the story of a mom who rebuilt her life with help from the Salvation Army. Here's reporter Jeremy Harris from Como in Seattle.
I got to rest easy that night. I was the lucky one. I feel still that sense of hope and encouragement.
This was the place that kept Chelsea Pearsall off the street. The first night you got here, the other option would have been
In my car in the parking lot of Seattle Children's Hospital. It was also a sense of relief, a huge relief, just to kind of feel like we have a bed and we're in a shelter and not in my car.
Chelsea says money and medical problems put her and her son Xander on the edge of homelessness.
And I was feeling like I was in quicksand by that point and just kind of grasping to try to find a way out of it. I was devastated. I felt lost. I felt like failure as a mom.
But a connection to the Salvation Army in Everett, Washington gave Chelsea the hand up she needed and a path into transitional housing and eventually an apartment of her own.
And right before Thanksgiving, I got the call. How would you like to be in your own home apartment for Thanksgiving? And I felt like I won a game show. We were officially getting out of homelessness.
Chelsea was part of the Salvation Army's Pathway of Hope program.
Her and Xander have both been a blessing.
Captain Kristen Fankhauser was among those to mentor and support Chelsea and Xander.
Families are struggling quite a lot as we head toward more inflation and rising housing costs and cost of living. But I also see more people like an army coming alongside all of our folks in our community that are struggling.
Homelessness is on the rise, not just here in Washington, but also nationwide, with Housing and Urban Development estimating 770,000 people experienced a night of homelessness in 2024, the highest level ever recorded. And even those who have housing can be on the brink, with food, rent, and utility costs seeing sharp increases, putting pressure on those who are vulnerable. Others are on the verge of homelessness and hunger as food and housing costs rise.
When you feel like you hit rock bottom, it is not the end. We can help you get to a place where you feel stable and you don't have to worry about food or finances.
I hate asking for help, and I did, and it got me here.
Chelsea says it was the help from the Salvation Army when she needed it the most that put her back on a pathway of hope.
We just hit some roadblocks and detours, but that's part of life.
For Sinclair Cares, I'm Jeremy Harris in Seattle.
Joining us now is Lieutenant Colonel Cindy Foley from the Seattle Salvation Army. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about what's happening, first of all, in Washington State in your efforts to, help the homeless population. Washington State has the third highest homeless population in the U.S. And then you think about the efforts in Seattle, a lot of people in a dire situation. What are you doing on the ground to help those folks?
In King County, which is Greater Seattle, we have 18 programs that are working towards helping the unhoused to get into permanent housing or providing supportive services along the way. We currently sleep 900 people every night and feed another 1,400 meals during the day. But we have found the secret to making an impact in this program and in this challenge in our community is to actually provide a variety of opportunities to meet people's needs to get them towards stable living and into permanent housing.
Now, you talk about stable living. That's one of the big hurdles for so many families. What are the top priorities in order to make that happen?
People do need housing. So I think the number one start is for us to meet you where you are. Are you on the sidewalk? Are you living in the car? Do you need to go to a recovery program? Do you need transitional living? Or are we meeting you in a winter shelter because, you're in fear of dying tonight because of the cold temperature? So that's why we have a variety of avenues to get people moving towards stable living. Where are you, and what is the personal path you need to take towards stable living and permanent housing?
What type of help do you need to actually make that happen more effectively, whether it's on the legislative level, whether it's on the local level? What help do you need in order to help those people more and get into that stable housing?
Well, funding is the number one need. For instance, in our street level program, which we take mobile caseworkers that go out in a van that's a mobile office. We knock on a car door and we say, do you need permanent housing? We're the Salvation Army. We're here to help. It starts right there. We find out, what are your issues? Is it that you lost your job because you lost your tires? And that's what's going down. Do you have an addiction problem and you can go into the Salvation Army's recovery program? Do you need, do you still owe $2,000 to a landlord from 5 years ago? So you've ruined your credit history. We can help you with that. And then again, find an apartment that you can afford and get you often not onto a list to wait for government, but right into permanent housing.
Gotcha. You talk about the street level outreach programs and how effective they are. How are they making a difference?
We actually, again, meet you right where you are. We have a sidewalk version for people truly living on the streets or in a tent, or people living in their cars. So our mobile case managers are out there. We talk to you, we assess your needs. We, over 50% of people living in their cars are working. So they do have the ability to contribute towards rent, but there often is some unusual personal circumstance that's prevented them from being able to move forward. So we work with you to solve that problem. Do you owe past rent? Well, then we will use often donor money to help you pay that off. So now you can move forward. Another secret to that program is we make relationships with the landlords. So again, we're not taking you from your car and putting you on a list where you're now number 60, waiting for your turn in housing. Landlords trust us because we are the Salvation Army, and we're finding you a place that you can afford to stay in long term. The street level program has been going on for 5 years. We've housed almost 4,000 people. The program has grown to currently we have 4 mobile teams out in Greater King County, and 97% of the people that we have housed are still in permanent housing. So the model works, but other models are needed as well. We have programs for people who have mental health and behavioral challenges that need additional services. We have a continuum of care that can, again, take you from, are you in an emergency pop-up winter shelter? Are you living in your car? Are you in a traditional 24/7 shelter? So we have models that take you where you are and that continuum of care. So you need to go from your car to transitional housing to an apartment because you need some life skills along the way until you can live stably. There's not one answer for every person. The key is working with them individually.
You know, you talk about the face of homelessness, and you just mentioned working with so many people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and then they find themselves in a dire situation. They lose that job, they have a health issue, then all of a sudden they find themselves without a home. How are you seeing the face of homelessness change just in your own interactions?
I think the Salvation Army is here to give people hope and help. It's amazing to me, and actually so sad to see how quickly people become discouraged. The average person living on the street has become addicted to some kind of substance by 18 days on the street. It's because they don't have hope. They don't know where to go. So our being able to meet you where you are, whether it's, again, on the street, or maybe we meet you because you come to us for food, and then we can assess your needs and, again, get you on that path to stable living. That is the challenge, but that really is the answer.
You talk about how people can help, and that's one of the goals of Sinclair Cares, from homeless to hope. And you thrive, you survive on donations and the generosity of other people.
Correct. And In order to actually make an impact in any community across our country in the homelessness issue, it takes, again, both the support of corporations and businesses and individual donors who are giving what they can to make a difference for their own neighbors and needs, and funding from government. In our street level program, it only takes on average $2,000 for us to get a person who's living in a doorway into permanent housing. $2,000. So more government funds to help us be able to pay that, that first and last rent to get somebody in. And then typically we use donor funds, again, funds from businesses or corporations or even individuals to pay for those unusual requests that are part of the answer. For instance, buying somebody new cars, buying somebody tires so they now can drive to work and they can continue to work. The amount of money that it often takes to actually completely change somebody's life is much smaller than people think.
And these little donations, they can all add up and become that life raft for so many people.
Correct. The secret is all of us doing what we can to make a difference for our own neighbors and to make an impact in our greater community. I think we see the news and we often think that the problem is greater than us. And what can I do as an average person to actually make a difference? But no, your contribution, your support does make a difference. Or even giving your time to volunteer at one of our Hope Market food pantries or volunteering at a shelter. It does make a difference. And we're consistently seeing more than 1,000 people get into permanent housing every year just from our programs here in King County.
That's a big number. I mean, you want that number obviously to grow, but 1,000 seems like a dent there.
Correct. And we are not working at full capacity.
Okay.
Team, if we had more government funding to support the rent payments that get people, again, that first rent payment, we actually could house at a quicker rate than we currently are.
So many programs out there. We talked about the street level outreach program. We talked about a little bit more. We could touch a little bit more on Pathway to Hope as well.
Yeah, Pathway of Hope is a program where the Salvation Army works with families to walk them again on that journey towards stable living. So a family will be paired with a caseworker that will assess their personal needs and develop a plan of life skills that will help them get again to stable living. That could include things like budgeting classes, working on counseling, or for a family who's suffered from domestic violence. It could be job skills training or even assistance in finding housing, finding a job, finishing your education. Every person coming through Pathway of Hope is on their own path. It is unique. So that ability to actually work one-on-one with a family, design a program, and move them into stable living is the key and the success of our Pathway of Hope program.
Thank you so much for everything you do and for joining us, Lieutenant Colonel Cindy Foley. There are so many reasons why someone may experience chronic homelessness. They may struggle with issues such as mental illness, substance abuse disorder, or maybe even physical disabilities. On top of that, they may have trouble getting access to health care or even social services, making it more difficult for them to secure stable housing. And then there are root causes that are really impacting everyone. Number one, the high cost of housing right now. The average American can't afford the average home. You have a low housing supply, and then natural disasters, around 3 million people displaced from earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes. But you can help by going to sinclaircares.com or scanning the QR code on your screen. When we come back, we're going to look at a program in Texas that's making a difference. You're watching Sinclair Cares from Homeless to Hope. Welcome back to Sinclair Cares from Homeless to Hope. So you drop some money in the Salvation Army pot. Where does that money go? Listen to Farrah Walton from KI in Austin, Texas.
I was desperate to get me and my kids somewhere and try a different way of life.
Coming from what she calls a dysfunctional family, Kimberly Bryant says she never learned how to cope in certain situations. This led her down a dark path for most of her life.
I was stuck in addiction and alcoholism from the time I was 17 till I was 40.
She got sent to prison for a second time after getting her 6th DWI. That's when she says she was ready for change. She heard about a program through the Salvation Army that helps people find a place to live. She reached out to the shelters here in Austin and in San Antonio, eventually getting a safe place to start over at the Austin Shelter for Women and Children immediately out of prison.
You know, I knew that my children would be safe. We would be together. We didn't have to worry about meals. We didn't have to worry about clothes.
The program reunited Bryant with her children and allowed her to gain self-sufficiency, taking the bus from the shelter to a local restaurant to earn an income. Now she has her own residential and commercial cleaning company and is saving up to buy a house.
But if it hadn't been for the donations of this program, I don't know where we would have been. My children probably wouldn't have the mother they have today. I probably would not have had a chance to become the woman I am today. I am very grateful.
She was not afraid to ask for help or accept it. And it was because she fully took advantage of all the programs that she was able to exit successfully.
Every client is assigned a case manager upon entry to learn about their backgrounds and barriers. Salvation Army Austin Shelter Director Anali Delgado was Bryant's case manager, taking this moment full circle.
Like, we helped her overcome a lot of challenges, and you know, we are here and our doors are open and we hope to make an impact on many more.
The Salvation Army of Austin considers Bryant's story a major success, using her as an example to case managers to never give up on their clients.
Our goal is to eliminate homelessness. That's a very big task, but you know, one client at a time, we're able to help make a difference.
Kimberly is living proof of the positive impacts the Salvation Army of Austin has on people, setting them up with resources beyond their stay at the shelter.
Children are the majority of our population. We do have an on-site learning centers in the evenings. We have a certified teacher that's available to provide tutoring, help identify just any barriers that they're having with getting them enrolled in schools.
The shelter also offers employment assistance, childcare, and therapists to help families overcome difficulties. Today, Bryant is grateful for the support that helped her turn her life around.
They said I would never get sober. 8 years later, here I am, growing a business.
And now she wants to pay it forward.
I want to strengthen people, and I want to free people of the shame, guilt, and remorse of the things they've done, and just be an example of what you can become.
Reporting in Austin, I'm Farrah Walton.
Joining us now is Major Louis Reckline from the Austin, Texas Salvation Army. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I've been going through some of these numbers, at least for the Austin, Travis County area, and these numbers just look painting a picture of a very dire situation. You have over 1,600 individuals and families with children are experiencing homelessness in the Austin, Travis County area. Is this the worst you've ever seen it?
It is, and it's pretty staggering to see what's going on. And the thing that gets me the most is people don't see it because these families are hiding their children. They're sleeping in a car, sleeping on someone's sofa, but it's a very staggering number.
I mean, you talk about, and included in that, 1,000 children. That's simply mind-blowing.
Heartbreaking.
How do you go about addressing the situation, helping these families as you see the numbers creep up?
Yeah, the good part about the programs that we have is that we can bring a full family unit in, and whatever the family makeup looks like, sometimes it's a dad, a mom, a grandmom, a guardian, something like that. Once they get into our program, they automatically get a case manager, and we assess the case to make sure that we cater the program to what their need is. And that could be anywhere from employment assistance, financial literacy, child and family therapy, which is a great thing, child care, tutors for the children, so that we can get them back into a home as quickly as we can to get them stable.
Now, what about just the intake process? Are you obviously seeing more people come to your organization asking for help?
We do. We have probably right now, as you and I speak, we probably have about 500 on our wait list.
Really?
And I would venture to say about 260 of them are children.
What? Okay, the wait list. I mean, that's a lot of people, 500. What's going to happen here? How do you try to reach those people? Do you send them to other places? What's the outcome here on the wait list?
Well, we're the largest nonprofit in the community who does this here, and basically the only ones who handle families.
Right.
And so As we rotate people out, we're able to rotate people and we keep them involved by making sure that they contact us or we contact them, let them know, see what's going on. And as soon as we move a family out, obviously we move another family in.
And when you say move a family out and move a family in, you're talking about what, temporary housing? What are you talking about here?
We're talking about rapid rehousing. Our program has an 87% success rate, which means these families go out and in the housing, they're ready, they're secure, and so they're able to move into a stable home and out of our shelter.
And you said what, an 87% success rate?
87% success rate. The neat part about that is, though, even with that 87%, sometimes there's a hiccup, and sometimes there's something that may be a small stumbling block. But because they're in our program, we case manage them for 2 years following the time that they were in our shelter, so that we can help them manage whatever the situation may be.
And that's what I'm curious. When you say 87%, what does exactly success look like in this area? Is it keeping them in the home? Go ahead.
No, it's moving into their own house, moving them into where they're financially able to support their families and able to stay in our homes without worrying about being evicted or losing it for some reason.
So many people have a misconception of who's homeless right now. Who are the people on that wait list coming to your doors?
It's folks that it could be a domestic violence thing. It could be a loss of job. It could be a lack of education. There's so many variables that come into this. And so what we found out, especially during COVID, a loss of jobs was a huge thing that affected a number of our families. But then it's a generational thing. And so they've got to be brought in, and we're able to teach them how to manage that. So hopefully we can break that generational cycle.
Why do you think, though, the need is growing? Why do you think you're seeing this increase in the Austin area?
Sure, I can tell you in Austin, the cost of living is extremely high. And so the cost even for low-income housing is not what most people would think that low-income housing costs. And so it does take a lot to make that happen. And that's probably the biggest stumbling block, because they're not able to pay the rent, which causes the eviction. And so we have to help them get financially secure and work with the landlords and work with the utility companies to pay off that past debt.
And you talk about that. This is a problem across the country. I mean, the American family, the average American family, in a lot of cases can't afford the average American home. I mean, prices are just through the roof. But you also offer emergency services, right?
We do. We have some services that we're able to keep clients in their homes depending on their situation. So we give rent, utility assistance, and food and items like that to keep them in their homes so they don't become homeless.
And I imagine you're seeing the same uptick in people coming in for emergency services as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that number, the folks that are requesting help is staggering as well.
And you're talking about what, just a hot meal?
Now, what I'm talking about is they're in jeopardy of probably going homeless. And so it's that last email or the last letter from the landlord saying, you've got to pay your rent or we're going to ask you to leave, or they got to pay the rent so they can't afford groceries, or they have to get groceries and they can't afford rent or utilities. So we're able to help them out in that way to help bring that together.
People always wonder where their donation money will go. And I know there's so many examples. You can give $25, helps provide one night of a shelter for a child. You have $100, helps provide financial literacy. But each little bit can go towards something else, like a piece of that donation go towards maybe preventing someone from ending up on the streets, or even paying for their electricity.
Yes, and that's important. But one of the things that we're trying to really focus on now is to prevent homelessness. And so the more we can do that, that number will shrink. At the same time, serve those who are homeless to get them back into a home.
What are some of the biggest obstacles you're facing in terms of serving people right now?
I think most of it is their past history with their landlords, with the utility company, because that doesn't go away until we're able to satisfy that debt. They won't turn their services on until we're able to secure some funds to help them with their rent, their past rent, so that they can get into a new place. And then obviously job skills and job training and helping them fill out a resume and to do those things. And the biggest thing I think that besides the family and child therapy is financial literacy. A lot of people don't know how to budget their income. And so we're able to help them do that.
Now you talk about donations. I mean, you survive on donations. Yeah. How is that looking right now for you?
We have about a $6 million operation for one of them and a $3 million operation for the other one. And we're very fortunate in this community that the community does help us a great deal. Always, we could use more, obviously, but we are very fortunate that the folks in this community see the need and they're able to support us.
Well, the people who are watching this will be watching this possibly from around the country, different parts of the country. What do you want them to know about the homeless population, the growing number in your area?
That is very scary. When you think of a mom sleeping in a car and not being able to sleep so she can protect her children, or getting out of a domestic violence situation, and the effect that it has on the children. These children don't live a regular life, and so being able to do something as a normal life for them, I think is huge. But that's all of what affects them emotionally, physically, and those kind of things. And the need is so big that we have to cater towards that individual family, because one blanket kind of program is not going to fit them all.
You know, a lot of people, I think, don't really think about the disruptions, whether it's if your child going to high school and where do you go after school, or trying to find a place to take a shower. What is life like for many of these families who are A, homeless right now, or B, on the brink of becoming homeless?
But scary for them, obviously, because they don't know what steps to take and they're not sure where to turn. So when they turn to us, as of right now, as we discussed, we put them on a wait list, and then hopefully get them in as quickly as we can as we successfully move families out into rapid rehousing. And so it's the fear of becoming homeless is probably the biggest thing that weighs on them right now.
Well, what do you think everyday people, businesses, policymakers can do to help make this situation not as dire as it is?
I think coming alongside of us, not just in a financial way, but in a volunteer way, to help us work with these families, to help them get the job skills that they need, to help them find the right fit for their families, because they need to know that they can not only work, but take care of their bills and take care of their families and be there when their children get home from school, because that's one of the biggest factors that we see, is that the job is detailed by the job, not by the family.
And before we leave you, just one final word to people who may be on the fence about donating, how their money can make a difference.
Oh, it's huge. When we drive down the streets in Austin and you see these folks on the street corner, number one, we don't want them to be a part of our program. Number two, it's important for us to receive the funds so that the case managers, the different financial aid, the parents with the fact that when they come to us, they have nothing. So when they leave, they need more than just clothes and food. They need different things that are able to help them. And so when these organizations and these businesses help us out, their gift goes much further than they can imagine. And their financial gift, we're able to stretch because of the program that we have.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and the work that you do, Major Lewis Reckline from the Austin Salvation Army. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
At the Salvation Army, a shelter isn't just a place to rest. It's a chance to shed layers, let loose, and finally let it go. With your gift, a warm bed is just the beginning. It's the first night of a new day. When our homeless neighbors feel safe enough to close their eyes, they can see the way forward.
I want to thank you so much for watching, and together we can make a big difference. And it doesn't take a lot of money. For $25 helps provide one night of shelter for a child. $100 helps provide financial literacy and employment assistance services for a family. Then a larger dollar amount, around $1,000, helps provide rent and utility assistance for a family. You can help by going to sinclaircares.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Together, we can do the most good. Sinclair Cares. I'm Angela Brown.